They say betrayal doesn't come from enemies, it comes from the people you trust the most. And when it finally hits, it doesn't just hurt, it shatters you. I used to believe I had built a life worth envying. A cozy house in the suburbs, 2 beautiful kids, a hardworking husband who kissed me on the forehead before leaving for work. It wasn't perfect, but what marriage was. My name is Veronica Hale, and for 15 years, I thought I was living my happily ever after. James and I met in college when we were both broke and idealistic. He was studying law, and I worked overnight shifts at a 24-hour diner to help pay his tuition. I remember the first night he studied for the bar exam. I sat next to him on the floor of our 1-bedroom apartment, massaging his shoulders while he read through endless case law. When he passed, we both cried like kids. That was the beginning of what I thought was our story. We got married young. We didn't have much, just each other and big dreams. I gave up my career ambitions when Liam was born. James insisted it was temporary, just until he got settled in the firm. I believed him. I always did. Years passed, and I became the mother, the caretaker, the background of his life. The woman who organized the school bake sales and picked up his dry cleaning. I didn't mind. I loved our kids, and I believed I was building something meaningful, a family, a future. And then she arrived. Her name was Alina, his new secretary. She was young, stylish, with that polished, effortless kind of charm. The kind that turns heads in a room. At first, I wasn't threatened. Why would I be? James and I had history. We had roots. But things began to shift. Subtly at first. He started working late more often. He missed Lily's ballet recital and Liam's science fair. I noticed how he suddenly kept his phone face down at dinner. How he changed his passwords. How he got irritated when I asked simple questions like, "What time will you be home?" Then came the perfume. One night, when he kissed me goodbye, I caught a whiff of something floral on his collar. It wasn't mine. I laughed it off. Told myself I was being insecure. I mean, James was loyal. He would never. But denial is a soft pillow that slowly suffocates you. The tipping point came on a Tuesday. The kind of regular, boring Tuesday where you expect nothing extraordinary. I had made his favorite, chicken piccata, for dinner. The kids were in their rooms, working on homework. I lit a candle. I even put on a little lipstick. Silly, I know. He walked in. No smile. No kiss. Instead, he looked around the kitchen like it was a place he no longer belonged. Then, without even sitting down, he said it. "I'm not in love with you anymore, Veronica. I've been seeing Alina. I'm moving out tonight." It was like someone pulled the floor out from beneath me. I just stood there. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear. My brain was scrambling for words, for sense, for anything, but nothing came out. He walked past me, straight to the bedroom, packed a duffel bag, and left his wedding ring on the kitchen table like it meant nothing. 15 years. 2 kids. A whole life together. Reduced to a silent silver band on wood. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I went completely still. Liam came out of his room and asked where Dad was going. I just told him Daddy needed some space. I tucked them both into bed that night, told them I loved them more than anything in the world. Then I locked myself in the bathroom, curled up on the cold tile floor, and tried not to drown in the sobs that finally broke free. I replayed every memory, every fight, every kiss, trying to find the moment he stopped loving me. Trying to understand how someone could walk away so cleanly while I was left choking on the wreckage. And the worst part? There was no apology. No explanation. No remorse. Just a man who chose a younger, shinier life and left his family like old furniture on the curb. That night changed me. Not because I lost him, but because I realized he was never really mine. I didn't know it then, but that moment, that crushing night, would be the beginning of something I never saw coming. Not revenge in the way you expect, but something deeper, fiercer. The unraveling of a life, yes, but also the slow, painful stitching together of a new one. Because when someone leaves you broken, you have 2 choices: stay shattered or rebuild, stronger, sharper, and far more dangerous than before. And, oh, I was going to rebuild. After James left, the silence in our house was unbearable. Not peaceful silence, the kind that settles over you like a warm blanket.
No.
This was empty silence. The kind that seeps into the walls, heavy and cold. The kind that whispers, "You've been abandoned." The first few days passed in a blur. I barely ate. I couldn't sleep. I smiled for the kids, packed their lunches, helped with homework, but inside, I was numb. Just a shell performing tasks out of muscle memory. The woman I had been, the hopeful young wife, the devoted mother, the woman who believed in love, she was gone. Then the whispers started. It's a small town. The kind where gossip travels faster than facts. I heard he left her for the secretary. Poor Veronica. She gave up everything for that man. I always thought James was too handsome to stay loyal. Each comment felt like a slap to the face. I couldn't even go to the grocery store without catching someone glancing at me with that mixture of pity and satisfaction. Like my pain validated their own dull lives. But the worst part? James didn't even pretend to be discreet. He paraded Alina around town like some kind of trophy. I saw them once, at a wine bar we used to go to for our anniversaries. He had his hand on her lower back. She threw her head back laughing at something he said. My stomach turned. I ducked behind a shelf and stood there until I couldn't breathe. A few days later, the financial reality hit. I logged into our joint bank account and nearly fainted. He had emptied it. Every last dollar. Not even enough left to pay that month's mortgage. I called him, my voice shaking. James, you can't just leave me and the kids with nothing. He cut me off. You're resourceful, Veronica. You'll figure it out. That's all he said. You'll figure it out. As if 15 years of love, sacrifice, and loyalty meant absolutely nothing. I sat on the living room floor and sobbed so hard my chest hurt. My hands trembled as I looked around our home, the one we decorated together, where we brought our babies home, and it hit me. I was seconds away from losing everything. But that's the thing about rock bottom. It clears the noise. It forces a choice. Stay there and rot, or climb out, one bloody step at a time. So I stood up. I stood up for my children, for my future, and, slowly, for myself. The next morning, I made coffee, pulled my laptop out from under a pile of unopened mail, and Googled work-from-home jobs. That was the beginning. At first, I applied for anything: data entry, admin help, social media posts for small businesses. I signed up for freelance platforms, learned Canva, watched YouTube tutorials on SEO and copywriting at 2 a.m. I took every job I could get, even $10 gigs, just to keep the lights on. My days were a blur of school runs, frozen pizza dinners, and late-night deadlines. My body ached. I cried in secret. There were moments I wanted to give up, when I stared at the ceiling in the dark and wondered, is this what my life has come to? But each time I wanted to quit, I remembered the look in James's eyes when he left. So smug. So certain I'd fall apart. That image lit a fire in me. One day, while working on a logo design for a local salon, I got a message from an old college friend, Natalie Myers. She and I had lost touch over the years, but she had seen a brand audit I posted online. Veronica, this is really good. Are you working in marketing now? I told her the truth. Kind of. I'm learning as I go. She didn't hesitate. I run a startup, she said. We need someone scrappy, creative, who gets people. You interested in consulting for us? That was the moment everything began to shift. I started part-time with her company. Within 6 months, I was full-time, managing their entire digital strategy. I created content, ran email campaigns, even helped redesign their website. It was exhilarating. I was building something for me. For the first time in years, I felt powerful, capable, like more than just someone's wife or someone's mother. I was Veronica Hale, and I was climbing out of the ashes. But just when I thought I had moved on, something unexpected happened. Late one afternoon, while I was finishing up a client call, I saw a name pop up on my phone that made my breath catch. Becca Simmons. James's old paralegal. We hadn't spoken in over a year. Her voice trembled on the line. Veronica, I probably shouldn't be calling, but you need to know what really happened with James and Alina. It wasn't what you think. I sat frozen, phone pressed to my ear. She continued, it's bigger than cheating. You were used. And so was he. My blood turned cold. What do you mean? I whispered. Her next words changed everything I thought I knew about my ex-husband, and made me realize this wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't sleep that night. Becca's voice kept echoing in my mind. You were used. And so was he. What could that mean? I sat in my kitchen, staring at the phone like it might ring again. A storm swirled inside me. Not just of anger, but curiosity. For months, I had believed James left me because he fell for someone younger, someone shinier. But now there was more. The next morning I called Becca back. She hesitated. Are you sure you want to know? Yes, I said. All of it.
So she told me.
Turns out, Alina wasn't just James's secretary. She had a history, a carefully concealed one. 2 jobs before joining James's firm, she had been quietly let go for manipulating a senior partner into covering up a financial discrepancy. Nothing major, just enough to make him nervous. She walked away with a severance and a sealed HR report. Then she set her sights on James. From the minute she was hired, Becca said, it was like watching a spider spin a web. She flirted, yes, but more than that, she made herself necessary. She organized his calendar, covered up minor client issues before he even noticed, made him feel like she was saving him. Classic narcissist bait. James, ever the ego-driven man, ate it up. And then the real twist hit me like a punch in the gut. Alina found out James had improperly handled a case file, nothing criminal, but enough to risk suspension from the bar. She had emails, audio, and Becca claimed even footage. And she used it. She gave him a choice, Becca said. Leave you. Move in with her. Keep her comfortable. Or she'd go public. I felt physically ill. James hadn't just left me. He had been blackmailed into destroying our family. At first, I felt a twisted sense of vindication. So he wasn't the man I thought he was. But then another, deeper truth sank in. He chose her over integrity. He chose her over me. He could have come to me, told me the truth. But instead, he let me drown alone. I thanked Becca. Hung up. Then I made a decision. For the first time in over a year, I wasn't just surviving, I was strategizing. The next day, I met with my lawyer. Told her everything Becca had said. She sat back in her chair, stunned. You mean to tell me he lied on the financial disclosures during the divorce? Exactly. That's perjury. We filed for a motion to reopen the divorce settlement based on concealed income and misconduct. The judge approved it faster than I expected. Apparently, James had made plenty of enemies since moving in with Alina. Several of his clients had filed complaints, and his firm was under quiet investigation. And Becca? She testified. She walked into court with a folder of emails, statements, and memos, evidence James never disclosed in our divorce. It was devastating. He looked like a ghost. This wasn't the charming, confident man I had married. He was pale, trembling, sweating under the courtroom lights. Alina didn't even show up. When the judgment came down, I won everything James had tried to keep from me. Full custody of our kids. Back child support with interest. A percentage of his remaining assets. And an order to repay me the money he took from our joint account. He looked at me once briefly. Not with anger. Not even shame. Just defeat. And I didn't feel sorry for him. Not anymore. A few weeks later, I ran into him at the grocery store. He was alone. Hair messy. Unshaven. He looked old. Veronica, he said. Can we talk? I raised an eyebrow.
About what?
I miss the kids. I made mistakes. I didn't know what I was doing back then. I cut him off. No, I said calmly. You knew exactly what you were doing. You just didn't think I'd fight back. He opened his mouth to speak again, but I had already walked away. That conversation wasn't about regret. It was about control. And that version of me, the one who would have fallen for his guilt, she didn't exist anymore. I never spoke to him again. I focused on my kids, my career, and most importantly, myself. And something wild happened. I started getting invited to speak at women's empowerment panels. I shared my story in quiet conference rooms full of women who had been broken and left behind just like me. I watched tears fall and heads nod as I said, "He left me for his secretary." But it was the best thing that ever happened. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I found freedom. I found me, not the version molded to fit inside someone else's life, but the real Veronica Hale.
Fierce.
Capable. Unapologetically alive. They say healing isn't linear. And they're right. Some mornings, I still wake up expecting to hear James's keys jingling in the hallway or his shoes by the door. For a split second, I forget he's gone. Then I remember everything, and instead of pain, I feel relief. Because the truth is, I'm no longer mourning the man who left me. I'm mourning the woman I used to be. The one who lived in someone else's shadow. Who measured her worth by how well she kept a house, packed lunches, and smiled through being ignored. That woman is gone. And in her place, I found someone stronger, braver,
Whole.
It didn't happen overnight. After the court case ended, I still had nights where I cried into my pillow. Still flinched when I heard his name. Healing wasn't some dramatic movie moment. It was quiet.
Slow.
It was showing up to my job and believing I deserved the paycheck. It was making pancakes on Sunday morning with the kids and dancing in the kitchen to 80s music. It was saying no to things that drained me and yes to things that scared me. The turning point came one weekend when my daughter Lily, who's only 9, asked me something that stopped me in my tracks. "Mom, are you happier now?" I paused. "Why do you ask?" She shrugged. "You laugh more. And you don't cry in the laundry room anymore." I pulled her into my arms and whispered, "Yeah, baby, I think I am." Because that was the truth. I was no longer just surviving James's betrayal. I was growing from it. One afternoon, while working on a pitch deck for Natalie's startup, I got an unexpected email. It was from a national podcast that highlights women entrepreneurs. They had read a blog I'd written, how I rebuilt my life after losing everything, and wanted to feature me in an upcoming episode. At first, I hesitated. What if people judged me? What if James heard it? But then I remembered something I had written in that blog. The worst thing that ever happened to me was also the best, because it forced me to become the woman I never dared to be. I said yes. The interview went viral, not because I was famous or flashy, but because I was real. I told the truth. How I had been cheated on, lied to, left broke and heartbroken, and how I slowly, stubbornly built a new life from scratch. Women across the country messaged me with stories of their own heartbreaks. Some were crying in their parked cars. Some were still with their James, scared to leave. Some had just left and didn't know what came next. I wrote back to every single one of them, because I knew what it felt like to be invisible, and I refused to let another woman feel that alone. And James? Well, karma has a funny way of keeping receipts. A mutual acquaintance told me Alina left him not long after the court hearing. Apparently, once the money dried up and the power faded, she got bored. Moved in with a real estate investor in Florida. James lost his job, and with the ethics investigation still hanging over his head, no firm would touch him. He moved back in with his parents. At 42, once I might have felt satisfaction, even spite. But when I heard it, all I felt was nothing. Because I wasn't that woman anymore. My life had outgrown him. A year after the divorce was finalized, I took Lily and Liam on a road trip. Just the three of us. We drove from Pennsylvania to the Carolinas, singing loud with the windows down, eating gas station snacks, stopping at weird little roadside museums. We stayed in a cabin in Asheville and hiked trails I never thought I had the strength to climb. At the top of one hill, Lily looked out over the view and said, "This is what freedom feels like." I smiled through the lump in my throat. "Yes, sweetheart. It really does."
And now?
I run my own small business, a boutique marketing agency built from everything I taught myself at midnight while the world slept. I work with women-owned brands, startups, and nonprofits. I hire other moms, college dropouts, women starting over. Because I know what it's like to start from zero. I know what it's like to be told your life is over, only to realize it's just beginning.
So yes.
He left me for his secretary. But it was the best thing that ever happened. Because in losing him, I found me, the version of myself that doesn't shrink for anyone. The woman who knows her worth. The mother who shows her kids what strength really looks like. The fighter, the builder, the survivor. The one who walked through fire and didn't burn. This was never just a story about heartbreak. It's a story about resurrection. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Your support means everything. If this story touched you or made you think, please subscribe to our channel for more real, powerful stories.